بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Inshallah ta'ala, we're reading in this book, which is posted there, Al-Sunna, the Asharis, which is one of the 25 book challenge we have that we want to read 25 books in a year. And this is what we're reading before we go to our next text that we're going to be studying. So we're not reading this because everyone should have read this on your own. And I'm trying to push us to reading books. And it helps us when we have class. The wider your reading is, the more you'll understand the concepts that we mentioned in class. Let me repeat that because it's important. The reason why I push for us to read books, and I select different books, because each book I select for you to read, it's going to give you background information of the things I discuss in detail in class, right? Oftentimes we'll come to class and we don't have no background of the subject. So when I'm talking, it's like totally unfamiliar territory for people. So the more you read, the easier it is for you to follow me in class. You start understanding more concepts. So if I can get you to read a lot, that means when we discuss, you have something to lean on when we're talking. So the scholars, they say, you have certain ways to become learned. Number one is hifz, memorization. Memorizing, that's important. Even if you only memorize a little bit, but don't stop memorizing, right? So that's a habit of someone who's seeking knowledge, right? The scholars say knowledge is what is contained in the heart, not in the pages of books, right? So you have to have a portion of memorizing. And all of us, even the elders among us, take something out of every class that you memorize, even if it's only one line, one saying, right? But don't stop memorizing. So if the whole class you can only memorize one saying, memorize it and add to two, but keep training your mind to memorize, right? The creed of Islam, we don't start to the 21st. So we're waiting for everyone to get their books because I didn't want to start without giving everyone ample time to get their book. So we didn't start yet. Hold on one second. I'll put that up so you can see it. This book is available. The Creed book, some people, they might wear. This is the book we're going to start in, what's today? In 11 days. So it's there. But right now, up to that, I'm going to read in this book. And so, this is a book is on the 25 list. So everyone should have read, but, we're falling behind. So some people can't afford the books. So that's why I ask everyone, if you are well off, to donate to the donate a book, right? That way, out of those books that we're studying, people who don't have money can still follow along because we have donated books that we can send them for free, right? I mean, we all gotta work and help one another. So that process of donating a book, you can just donate to the fund. It don't have to be a particular book, but you can donate, and the fund is bigger. So when people need different books that they can't afford, and I always ask, if you can't afford, we let you write to us to, let us know who you are and that, I want to get a book, which book. So at least we know that, and we ask you to give as much as you can. So if the book is $20 and you can't afford it, can you give $3? Can you give $5? Can you give something? And this way we keep the fund going so that everyone will be able to follow the class. You know what I mean? And they would have the book, right? We got to help. So we do that. And that way we keep people following. Inshallah. And we're in the future, we're going to start putting out, I used to give 1 month before we change books. That's what I'm going to start doing. But there are many things that we need to do when we're selecting books. So put up that link for the donate a book. Leslie, can you put that link up? It's also in their thing for donate a book. So where they link where they can go donate the book. Okay. All right, mashallah. I'm sorry, that's not my expertise. Okay, so you understand, up until the 12th, we're going to read this book because it's important background information. So we're just reading it. If you got it, you can get it later and cover it. And I'm not going to go in great detail, inshallah. Allah, because this relates to the creed, so it's very important. Are you ready? We reached up to the introduction. On page, where we at?
Page 16.
Oh, as the Ummah. Let me go to my Arabic book so I can follow you. Allah. Okay, good. I'm following. I'm just trying to make sure I follow you in Arabic so I can see the terms. Okay.
Bismillah
For those who read Arabic, that's we don't have the book, but this is the Arabic book. So if you read Arabic and you want to read the original text, and I'm usually doing that. Whatever book we read in English, I usually have the Arabic version to follow, and it makes it easier to clarify points of some terms that we rely upon. Okay, go ahead. Bismillah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. The author, may Allah have mercy on him, said, as an Ummah, we possess many means for unity, agreement, and harmony that other nations do not possess. For us to neglect those means and causes for unity and to feign ignorance about them is one of the greatest of wrongs. For us to focus on side issues of jurisprudence and doctrine and turn them into fundamentals upon which the religion is based is one of the most severe of injustices. Today,
here we have, in our religion, we have what is called al-usul and al-furu'. We have foundational matters, which we cannot differ in. And then we have detailed matters, right, that there is permissibility to differ in. When we're talking about the fundamental principles of the religion, if there is deviation there, that is a cause for censoring. When we talk about branches, details, that is the realm of scholarly difference. And therefore, we should have tolerance, right? So let me give you this point. So you have usul and you have furu', right? Usul is the foundational primary beliefs in the religion, right? And here, when we talk about those, we're talking about those things which are consensus upon, right? Scholarly consensus upon them, and they're necessary and known to be of the religion. In these issues, we can't have difference of opinion, right? Or difference of opinion are not tolerated. They're considered innovation, or they can lead to disbelief. Then you have furu', which are branches or details of the religion. In there is a scope that's available for difference of opinion, right? Where there's the scope for difference of opinion, we don't censor. When there is foundational matters that there is no room for disagreement, we censor. Now, not every disagreement is a valid disagreement. So some people, for instance, they'll have a corrupt belief, and they'll say, well, scholars differed in this. No, some people deviated and they were rejected, but every difference of opinion is not a valid difference of opinion. And in these issues of the creed and the foundations of the creed, because someone disagreed with the majority of the Muslim nation, that doesn't make that disagreement valid, right? At minimum, that disagreement is a valid innovation. And at worst case scenario, it's kufr, it's disbelief. And we should distinguish the difference. So having the difference of Allah, and I use this because I'm drilling it in the minds of the people. So it's intentional. Example, Al-Sunnati wal Jama'ah have consensus on the fact that Allah exists without a place. Because someone comes along and says that Allah is in heaven, may Allah protect us from such a bad belief, that difference of opinion is not a valid difference of opinion. It's not valid. It's not permissible for a Muslim to believe that about Allah, right? Even though some people who claim to be Muslim have that belief, it's invalid and it needs to be censored. It's not something that we can accept. We can't say the Muslims can believe this or the Muslims can believe that. It's all valid. No, this is invalid. This is valid. It's something that relates to the fundamental foundations of Islamic belief that we cannot tolerate deviation in it. If you understand, is this clear? Is this clear for everyone? Because this is being pushed down people's, it's been pushed. So we got to push back. That's a question, inshallah. I know it takes time. Is it clear? Now, don't say it's clear, and then when you got to apply the rule, it gets hard. Oh, clear, man. Clear is all out there. But now when I got to apply the rule, it's foggy, right? Allah. You remember I told you, that was in the last class. I said that many of us, we've been through different groups, right? And what happens, we have hard time accepting when we were mistaken. So we'll stay in that position just to say we're not mistaken, even though we believe it's wrong. This happens, right? Which is a portion of ego, honestly, arrogance and pride. So the person may have been affected, I give you an example, by Wahhabism, so-called Salafiyah. And they told you Allah is above his throne, literally. And they translated hadith books and Quran books and sent you them colorful books and told people that. And then that person goes and learns. And then they realize that that was an error. But now you still have friends and people you know who are still upon that error. And now you have to respond to that. And if because of a weakness in ourselves, we'll accept what is wrong as if it's a valid disagreement. Do you understand my point? Is what I'm saying clear? I want to make sure we understand this. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, say it. It's fine. We're a family. It's cool. But I want to make sure you understand because it's important. And I want to distinguish between what are items that are permissible for us to disagree and what are items that are not permissible for us to disagree. And we need to know the difference. Tell you. This is an important lesson to learn, right? Because sometimes we treat branches as if they're fundamental matters, and we treat fundamental matters as if they are branches, right? So sometimes we'll take issues that are furu' and we make them usul, and we take issues that are usul and we make them furu', and this is an error. So we need to know the difference. And then eventually as we learn, right, we need to know which issues are issues of consensus, what issues are necessarily known to be of the religion, what issues reached us by multiple chains of transmission to the point that we can't disagree with them. That's like stages of learning. But, you know, we got a lot of things that we have to learn. So all of these points, they lead up to further advanced discussions. So if you miss these points, when we get to more detailed discussion, you're not going to be able to follow. So I advise you, I encourage you to memorize these things and master them well. That's why I say, is it clear? Is it clear? Is it clear? Because if it's not clear, when we get further into discussion in more details, you're going to be lost, right? It's like not learning addition and subtraction and then trying to do algebra. It's not going to work. Or even division or multiplication. If you don't know addition and subtraction well, there's no way you're going to do multiplication and division. It's just not going to happen because you didn't learn the foundation for that, which is addition and subtraction. That's more clear, right? So it's the same thing in these points. If you don't learn your foundations well, when we talk about details, you're going to be confused. Go ahead, inshallah.
Today we are in dire need of unity and harmony in order to rescue our ummah from the darkness in which it wallows. We are unable to achieve unity with the methodology of reckless and wrongful accusations of innovation against the notables of our history and the pillars of our heritage and civilization. Moreover, we are unable to achieve unity by spreading divisions and classifying the Muslims into misguided, innovators, heretics, grave worshippers, and so on.
Here, this is a nice, our scholars, mashallah, may Allah have mercy on them, they speak, all these are indications to an idea. So I think all these points that the author is mentioning here is talking about what happened in their environment in the Middle East, in the Muslim lands, where a group came out of Najd in Saudi Arabia, And they spread around the Islamic world over the last 200 years, and they considered Muslims as innovators, corrupt people, kuffar, grave worshippers, deviants, misguided heretics, and heretics or other things like that. And that these books are a response to these issues. When we don't know the issue, sometimes we don't know what is being said. For instance, many of us have, how many of you have heard of Tawheed in three types of Tawheed? Tawheed Rububiyyah, Tawheed Uluhiyyah, and Tawheed Al-Asma wa Sifat. Tawheed of Lordship, Tawheed of Godhood, and Tawheed of names and attributes. How many have heard that classification? They've read it or heard it or been taught that Tawheed is three types, three parts. I ain't say you believe it, I just said you heard it. You know about it, you heard about that. Speak up, come on, y'all. No, I didn't. Okay, no. I didn't teach you that. I taught you about it. Rukaya, I taught you about it. I didn't teach you it because it is not valid. Right, mashallah. Okay, alhamdulillah. All right. Whenever you learn Salafi doctrine, Wahhabi doctrine, that's how they teach Tawheed, right? That's a classic Wahhabi Salafi way to teach about belief. But the design of that categories, the categorization of so-called three types of Tawheed, its whole purpose was to consider Muslims as innovators and disbelievers and idol worshippers. It was a means to consider Sunni Muslims as misguided. That was the purpose of that division. It had an objective behind it. And now, if you go read, any of you who have read Sahih Bukhari in English or the Noble Quran have read that. You might have not paid attention because you don't know what's being said to you, right? But that's the actual purpose of that. And we'll go into it later in more detail. But that whole purpose of those three divisions is to consider Muslims kafir or innovators for the one who wants to be slick. It's really to consider them kafir. But some today, they like to be slick, so we don't consider them kafir, they just innovators, which has a similar ruling when when it's all said and done. Yes, so the three Tawheed aspects is wrong. Absolutely wrong. It in itself is an innovation. It's completely wrong. But that's a whole other discussion. Right? I like that. That's a whole other discussion. But we got to learn. And that's why I said it relates to fundamentals, because these are branches that relate to the fundamentals. So if you don't know the fundamentals of the religion, the usul, when they start talking about these branches, you're going to get lost. So that three Tawheed is designed explicitly to give us a doctrine that contradicts the doctrine of Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And it's an innovative thing that the Salaf knew nothing about. Amazing. People who say to follow the Salaf come up with the most innovative idea that in the fundamentals of the religion, The creed of the Salaf, they knew nothing about it. But you consider something as innovation, bid'ah, is you reject, but you bring the worst bid'ah in the most important science of the religion. Ya Latif, think about that. The people who claim that they follow the Salaf, hence the term Salafi, right? And they're against bid'ah, innovation. They bring the worst form of innovation in the most important aspect of the religion, which is aqidah, at-tawheed. And they bring the worst innovation in that which the Salaf knew nothing about. Subhanallah. No, the words are Arabic words, and the meanings, translations are what they use it for is completely wrong. And the Salaf or the early Muslims or the great scholars never used such classification to explain Tawheed at all. But it's designed for something. And that's like I said, that's a discussion. We'll go in details later, but I'm giving you a point. And it's spread all around the world through their books. So most people innocently, they go buy a book. Even if you're going to read the Sahih Bukhari in English, you're going to find this. You read translations, you read books, you're going to find this, and it becomes the default position in people's belief, which contradicts Al-Sunna wal Jama'ah, right? But you'll see it as we learn. Now, tell you. So he's indicating something here, right? So for instance, he mentions they consider people grave worshippers, innovators, heretics, grave worshippers. I remember I post a picture. I was at the grave of one of the great scholars, Sheikh Yusuf Nabahani, and I was making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and praying for the Sheikh Yusuf Nabahani, who was a great scholar of Al-Sunna and a lover of the Prophet. And someone copied that picture, one of those Wahhabi people. He said, look at this deviant innovator worshipping graves. And I was at the grave of Imam al-Nawawi making dua. And they put, look at this grave worshipper, worshipping Imam al-Nawawi. A'udhu billah. But that's come from their misunderstanding of the relationship of dua and what is ibadah, what is worship. They don't understand this thing. Subhanallah. There is no cure for ignorance except knowledge. And sometimes we refuse to learn. Go ahead, inshallah.
The Ummah will not achieve its liberation unless it returns to the wellspring and refers back to its roots and origin. It must develop a generation of Muslims who know their religion and the real worth of their scholars.
You heard that? It must develop. We're talking about if we're going to be safe as an ummah, we must develop people who know the religion and the level and the rank and the value of the scholars of this nation. These modern movements turn to people who don't know the religion and have no respect for Islamic scholarship, no respect for expertise. And the weirdest thing, right? This is a long discussion, but subhanAllah. The weirdest thing is they would rely on the scholars that they consider innovators, grave worshippers, idol worshippers, but they rely on their works for their validity. Right? They were grave worshippers. They didn't know Tawheed. They didn't know how to worship Allah. But you rely on their books to chop, cut, and paste to make your books. And like, just think about that. When you realize it's so silly, like, okay, you said this is kufr, this is shirk, this is bid'ah, this is this. Then the very books that you're quoting from, those great scholars did everything you said was bid'ah, shirk. Oh, well, they was excused. And you're not at their rank at all, not even a tenth of a tenth of a tenth of a tenth of them. But they were innovators, and they were idol worshippers, and they were mushrikun, and grave worshippers, and they were misguided in tenets of faith. You rely on their works. They don't need your works. And you try to replace them with people who are not even a percentage in relation to them in knowledge and understanding of the religion or practice. It's strange. It's a very strange thing. So until we produce generations of people who actually know, as we say, know their stuff, we're going to be suffering from this disunity.
There must be a generation that understands the value of constructive dialogue in pursuit of the truth, and it must be open to differences of opinion that are a part of human nature. We have always attempted to emphasize these points in all of our researches, including this one. In this research, we have avoided the ad hominem attacks of others, and we firmly believe that the calm dialogue with proof and evidence is the shortest path to reality.
And this is what is needed. It would be preferable, honestly, to have a discussion without mentioning names. Unfortunately, to do that, you need people who are interested in knowledge. But because we want everything microwave Islam fast, we won't sit through a knowledgeable base discussion and try to figure it out. So when we're in that condition, we have to identify by name ideas so they can connect to the mind of the people, right? So when I say Wahhabi or Salafi, I'm not saying that in a way of putting people down. It's just so you can identify the idea, right? But we want to get to a point in our learning where we learn concepts and we apply the concepts wherever they fit, right? We learn our belief, and these things may differ from that belief. And no matter who has those differences, we can identify them because we actually know the principles. But when we don't know the principles, it takes work. So I got to identify something because most people, they don't know the belief of the Salaf, right? They don't. They don't even know who the Salaf is. They think when someone says, I'm Salafi, that means they are actually following the Salaf. So that's something that people are being misguided by. Well, we got to be upon the Salafiyah. And that person thinks that Salafiyah means as Salaf, and they don't distinguish the two. And they have no idea of a Salaf. So they'll be talking about scholars of the so-called Salafiyah, and they think that these are the scholars of the Salaf. They don't understand the difference. Not realizing that the Salaf lived 1,100 years ago. And everyone after them is not the Salaf. And if you're going to say they're following the Salaf, you got to know what the Salaf said in order to validate that claim. But if you don't know who the Salaf is or what they believed or how to get to them, you can't even know if what they're claiming is true or false, right? And that's important. So what it becomes is the names become, an identity theft. But if no one told you who the original person was, you're going to accept, the false claims because you don't know. So therefore, we had to highlight the names so you know exactly who we're talking about. Not for the purpose of criticizing people, so that you identify ideas, right? So when I say Salafiyya, you know Wahhabi. And you know the Wahhabi and the Salafiyya are the same people. But they say, we're not Wahhabis. And if you say Wahhabi, you mocking the name of Allah. Nah. We're talking about the doctrine you follow. Take away the name. You can take away Wahhabi. You can take away Salafi. We're talking about the doctrine you're conveying, right? That's what we want to get to. And we don't even need to say the words. We want to talk about the doctrine. The doctrine you say says that Allah is literally in heaven. Is that the doctrine of the Salaf? And the answer is absolutely not. You're claiming that these beliefs that Allah has hands and feet and a face and eyes and he moves, and this is literal. Is this the belief of the Salaf? Absolutely not. Now, how are we going to determine that? We're going to go read the books of the Salaf that has reached us with an unbroken chain of narration, not these deviant books that you cutting and pasting with, right? And then we're going to see, did the Salaf say the same thing you're saying? And the answer is absolutely not. So it's a claim, not reality, right? And so you're saying, okay, we're not Wahhabi. Okay, let's examine the beliefs and the practices of the Wahhabiyya, which is well known. Let's examine their leaders. Let's examine their books. And then we go to you with your new name as Salafiyya. And then let's examine, is these the same books, the same scholars, but a different name? The answer is absolutely yes. So what's the difference? It's the same thing. You just changed the name, right? What do people do who got bad business practices? If it's a company that got bad business practices, they start off with a name, right? Name of the company, Joe's Air Conditioning. After they do several bad jobs, they get bad reports, people become familiar with them, they change the name as Joseph's. It's no longer Joe's. Joseph's Air Conditioning. So, and they get a new name and a new truck and a new stuff. It's the same company. And then when that gets discovered, they change it to J and J's Air Conditioning. But it's the same company, right? It's the same company, the same people. It's the similar thing, right? The similar thing. So it goes from Wahhabi, when it was known, then Salafi, now it's Athari, now I'm a real Hanbali, and this happens. But forget the name, whatever the name may be. Is that the same person running that company? Is that the same individual? Is that his son? Is that a son of his son? Yes, same thing. Okay, well, we're dealing with that. Forget what name you put on it. That's a fraud company. And they do bad business. The same concept. I think that makes it clear, right? And for us, we can't be lazy and not go into the details of that. And so if we don't want to talk about names, we just talk about points and talk about ideas and concepts. And that's where we work at. And when we get there, then it won't get, but in the meanwhile, when we don't have that, you got to identify by name. Especially when we're being affected by it the most. So we have to learn. And we've went too far without learning. And that's just becoming generational, and that we don't know. And we can't afford that. We can't. We're in a global world now. We can't remain not knowing. And because when we don't know, people, what do? They trick us, right? They will come in our communities. acting like they Shaykh al-Islam, and we don't know. So then we go from this deviant group to this deviant group to this bad idea. So there's a point that we got to say, no, 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 no. We're going to learn enough where we identify this stuff. And that's going to take time. And this is what we're doing, inshallah. Now,
in this research, we have gathered the statements of the notable imams and fully referenced every quote back to its source in order to stick to a sound methodology. In most cases, our efforts were only in arranging and organizing the material, with the occasional comment here and there. Everything else besides our comments are texts and statements from the scholars directed to the reader and his or her intellect. Having said that, this topic is too detailed to be encompassed in a limited number of pages. However, due to its sensitivity and seriousness, this is all that space has allowed. In conclusion, this is only a small effort. Perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Exalted, will bless it and benefit those who read it, just as He blessed the essays and researches that preceded it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Exalted, to grant us success in authoring more researches that will help shed light on the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Exalted, and play a role in building a solid Islamic consciousness. All might and strength is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To Him is the refuge in achieving every desire. We rely upon Him and take Him as our support. He is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs.
Well, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad. We're going to stop here because now we're going, after tomorrow, we'll go in deeper into the subject. And why did I pick this book? Because this book relates to the most important science of the religion, which is al-Aqidah, right? And I told you this year, I'm going to spend concentrating on the concept of Aqidah, making sure we understand, because this is where our biggest problem is, right here. We got other problems. We need to learn fiqh, we need to learn, but if we don't get our creed right, we don't have the correct belief, we're in trouble, right? So we got to clarify that issue so that we would be, if I don't do nothing else in my life, honestly, this is Amin Muhammad's, my own feeling. If I can just teach my people and those who are Muslim that are not my people, but they are Muslims and they want to learn the religion properly, if all I can teach you is the correct belief and I died doing that, I would be happy. If I didn't get to teach you fiqh and details of hadith and other things, but if I taught you the correct aqidah of Al-Sunna wal Jama'ah and help you understand it firmly, and I died upon that, I would be happy. Because even if you don't practice, but you have the right belief, eventually you're going to be the people of Jannah, right? You need to practice, and we want you to have good practice, and all of us. But the foundation of all that is sound aqidah, the sound belief, right? And I watch, and it hurts, people who've been trying to practice Islam for 30, 40, 50 years, all their life, 60, 70. And when they talk about belief, they utter kufr, disbelief, blasphemous statements, because no one taught them aqidah properly. That hurts, because that's not what they want, right? That's not what they intended, but they were misguided and no one corrected it. Like, do you know what it does when we hear somebody utter blasphemy? You like, I can see, I mean, and they believe it, not they utter something and they mistaken, you know, they don't know how to properly utter words, because that happens a lot. They don't know the proper English terminology, how to express these concepts. But when someone actually believes something that is blasphemous or innovated belief, that hurts, right? So we have to clear that issue. And when the person doesn't know, there's people out there selling counterfeit, they're passing counterfeit bills. And then you go to the store and they check your money and say, you know, nah, this is not real, we're not accepting it. And you be like, huh? because someone gave you counterfeit money. And when you go to the store to buy your goods, they bring the pen and they say, oh no, I can't take this. SubhanAllah, that's a painful feeling. We got that in the deen. And worse, we got people, which makes it worse, who know exactly what we're teaching, know it better than us, and they go, zoop, remain silent. That really hurts. Like, you studied, you know this stuff better than me. Why are you silent? Even if you don't want to call no name, I got it. Don't call names, but make the truth clear as the sun on a noonday. You know it. Your teachers wrote this stuff in their books, and your shuyukh, your sheikhs, they have books, and they explicitly mention this stuff. Why are you hiding it from the people? Now, you may tell that to somebody who don't know. I'll show you your sheikh's books. And it's explicit in their books. I'll show you the sheikhs of your sheikhs, the students of your sheikhs, your chains of narration, and show you that they emphasize these issues, and you're silent. And they had more protection than you got. At least they were in the Middle Lands, they were in Syria, they were in Yemen. They had a bunch of people to protect them. You're in America. Your people don't have all these scholars and no one to protect them, and they're under attack, and you remain silent. Come on, bro or sis, get yourself together. That's not fair. We studied overseas. We were among teachers. If we're in Syria or Lebanon or Egypt or Yemen, there are hundreds of scholars, generation after generation after generation. So these ideas, even if they spread, they're quickly refuted because the scholars are there, right? They're there. I want to share something. Give me 1 second. I have to share this with you. Give me 1 second, please. I got to find it first. It's going to be a looking. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. They blocked it. This show you how strong you got to look. They block stuff so it can't get to you. I'm sorry. Okay, this is good. Right here. I'm sorry. Be patient with me. Okay, right here. You can read this, and there is the whole conference. I want to share with you. I got to find it maybe tomorrow because it's in Arabic and it's hard to find. Are y'all with me? I'm sorry. I want you to go to this link. This link is going to tell you about this conference that was held in Chechnya, right? And it's an interesting. It's very interesting for so many reasons. This conference. I put it up. Did I put it up? No. But I didn't put it on the main screen. I'm sorry. There you go. This conference, it happened like 2016, I think, right? And I told you about it before, but I want you to read that thing. And what was unique about that conference was that you had around 200 scholars from all around the world, right? They came and they had a conference on who is Al-Sunna, right? And they did not allow any Wahhabis or Salafis. All right, I want you to think about this. They did not allow, you're not allowed to come. So no representatives from Saudi Arabia was allowed, period. You can't come. You're not Al-Sunna, you're not welcome. I want to show you something. Every major teacher of the Sunnis, Al-Sunna, these major teachers in America, their shuyukh, their teachers, or their teachers, students, or representatives was there. I want you to think about this. They were there. They participated knowing what was happening. Which, if you do that, that means what? You approve. They even gave speeches. They gave lectures, right? And they talked about what was going on in their countries and why we got to confront this idea. They did it. So they did it for their people in their lands and to spread the truth and to stop what was going on. But when we do it, it's a problem. Why is it good for them and it's necessary for them to make such a statement, but for us, it's not relevant? When we are affected more than they're affected, because they got scholars, they got universities, they got institutions, they got governments behind supporting them, they got endowments, they got everything to protect their knowledge and their people. They speak Arabic, they got all, the whole thing was in Arabic, it wasn't in English. We don't have none of those supports. We're under attack and we should remain silent. Why the double standard? Someone pay a, is what I'm saying clear? Why is there a double standard? Why is the double standard? If it's good for you and necessary for you that you go to that extent to not only have the conference, mention explicitly they're not invited, don't allow them to come, is that important to you? And all of you come together to do that. Over 200 scholars from almost every major country in the world. Y'all all came together in an agreement on something. And why, when it comes to us, we should remain silent? When in our community, especially, nowhere in the country is these bad ideas being spread like they're being spread in the Black community. Nowhere. in America. In the black community, that's where these ideas are spread the most. So why should we be silent? Think about what I'm saying. The whole Muslim world is fixing something that they're saying for us to be quiet and accept. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. We cannot. So read that. I gave you that link. Read it. It tells you about that conference. And tomorrow, it's in Arabic. Unfortunately, they didn't even translate it. Let me give us the justice of translating the stuff. Right? We get a bad deal, man. Seriously, we are treated so bad. MashaAllah, we're treated so bad. Right? But alhamdulillah, it's enough of us who know Arabic. It's enough of us who can read. Is enough of us who studied overseas. Is enough of us that we can make a change when we get some guts. Seriously, when we get some courage, we can reverse this trend. We can do it, but we got to be courageous. I ain't saying we got to be mean, but we have to have courage. We got to speak the truth, even if it's bitter. It's essential for the next generation, because we've already lost 40 years of being duped and being misled and being misguided in the name of Islam. This is scary. And we know from our own culture in America, our own history, if we don't stand up and make a movement, we'll be 300, 400 years and still in the same condition. Right? My screen is black. They hit me. You cannot see me? Uh-oh. I guess I'm pushing it too far. Is my screen blocked? I don't like to answer this, but I will. Is Imam Shadi Muhammad part of undoing the damage movement? Absolutely not. He's another form of hiding the damage movement. Absolutely not. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. He is rejecting their leadership over him, but he is spreading their same ideas. Ain't nothing changed. A new face, a new song with the same stuff. That's real. And I know many of our ladies who are broken for the abuse of our men love that. He's talking about our issues. He's talking about us. But listen, forget that. Forget the personality. What are you talking? What is the belief? What are you actually telling us? Forget the personality, right? Because we get into personality worship. Forget Muhammad. It ain't about him. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? It ain't about you, right? It's not about you. It's not about me. Forget the personalities, right? So I'm not talking about, I believe Shadi Muhammad is a victim of Wahhabi aggression. They paid for his education. They taught him, and he's just learning that master didn't do you right. And it's going to take a while to redo that whole thing. And may Allah allow him to continue to grow and to discover. And to one point, he realizes that, nah, this whole thing is a fraud. Not just the way they treat black people. The whole doctrine is wrong. That's going to take time. That's going to take time. And so he got to have his time. He got to have his time. And he got to go through it like everyone else. It was a point, like I told you, I was an Ansar. It was a point that I had to develop. It was a point that I had developed to say, even still today, When someone says something about the Ansars, I feel something inside. To this day, and it's been decades since I was a kid when I was doing that. But if someone talks about the Ansar Law movement today, I still feel something. It takes a long time when you put all your energy in something and to admit it was wrong. Even if you admit it's wrong, you still have those traces. It takes a long time. It may take generations to fix that stuff. And that's why we got to speak up, right? Because it takes generations, right? And it ain't personal. I think he's a beautiful brother. I think if he was Al-Sunna and he had the proper creed, we would be moving, right? I think he's very talented, no doubt about it. But La ilaha illallah, he's affected by Wahhabism. What can I do, right? But make dua for him. And I've tried to talk to him more than once, right? It ain't like I'm talking behind his back. And I know some people, listen, if he want to have that discussion, ahlan wa sahlan, we can. Publicly, privately, however he want it. Don't matter. That's not because I love him and I love our brothers. It's not something that it ain't about me and it ain't about them. It's about our people and future generations of learning correct Islam, because we all believe Islam is the salvation for us. So we got to get an understanding of it. It's hard. And I don't blame us, man. People, they pull the wool over our eyes. They did a number on us. I got it. I don't blame a person for that. But when you know and you stay in that stuff and you actually know, then that's a problem. But they train you not even to listen. Oh, he's a bid'ah, he's an innovator. And you won't even have a real conversation, right? Because that's part of the training. That's part of keeping you under those ideas. It's work. It's not personal. So don't make it personal. These are our people who are victims of this movement, right? It's not personal, right? These brothers were sincere. They traveled overseas. They put in their work to what the level they told them was the level. They did it. They received it. And what more can they do? What more you want, right? They did the best they could do with what they had. All right. But when more information comes, when knowledge is discovered, you got to go to the next level. That's it. And sometimes we've become famous, we become popular, we don't want to admit we've been duped. It's hard. It's a lot. Man, it's not an easy thing. And I understand that. Personally, I understand that. But we got to get away from it being about us. And it got to be about the truth. Right? And once we do that, we can have a real discussion. We won't even be mad at each other. Because we all, just like you saw they were racist, and you see that clear, and you can speak out, then we don't need to look at those scholars overseas to tell us what to do, and they don't care about us. Just like you figured that out, which took you years, now go to the next level, right? Go to the next level, and let's examine that. Right? Let's go to the next level. Let's take that to the next level. And the same as you discover that, if you keep going, you'll discover the rest too. But I think that takes time. And I would prefer that those who are more knowledgeable than me among African Americans, and there are some, and I'm not going to mention their names, so we're not going to get into a name. Please don't do that. But let's not get into names. Let's get concepts. Because we start picking name, then it gets personal and it loses the whole concept. So please let's not go there, right? But there are people who graduated from Azhar. They studied in Syria. They studied in Yemen. They're African American. They know this stuff better than me. When you guys start talking to your peers from the Wahhabi African Americans and having real solid discussions, you can understand our people and stop playing politics. Because maybe the way I express is different. I'm a ghetto dude. I come from the hood. I come from the streets. We hard. I ain't a college boy, right? So that's a different environment, right? So these guys, they college dudes, they intellectuals, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. So y'all need to have those discussions, but be honest, right? Be honest. Y'all in the same field, y'all got your master's degrees and PhDs, and fine. Take all that knowledge and be honest with each other. Stop playing politics with our people, right? Stop playing politics. So just look at me as a voice from the grassroots saying y'all ain't doing that to us no more. Period. We're not accepting. That's just a voice from the grassroots. With all your education, we learned enough to know y'all playing games. And we ain't going for it, right? That's it. Now, since y'all intellectual and y'all smart, work it out. And if y'all need our help, we'll help you. But work it out. We're not going to stay just for y'all politics, for us as a people to be misguided. We're not doing that. And somebody's going to speak. So if you want me to shut up, take all your education, take all your PhDs and your master's degrees and all that stuff you got, and start teaching the knowledge like it exists, and stop playing games in politics. Because you know. Because if we know, and we don't got all those higher degrees, and we know, and we can point it, and we got the books, and we can show you, so I know you know. I know you know. And if you don't know, you should be humble enough to sit with the other people to learn. So I know you know, so don't tell me you don't know. I know you know, because I know the same scholars you know. I know the same teachers you know. I know the universities you studied in, and I know the scholars from those universities, and I know their books. So I know you know. It's not like you don't know. Now, the question is, does it work for your politics? And it's a point that we got it. You know why you're losing the youth? Because the youth can see through this crap. The youth can see when people playing games. They don't respect that. The youth have this keep it real, right? Keep it real and facts. That's the youth. All that fluffy crap you doing, youth ain't following that stuff. They ain't impressed at all. They ain't. And you notice, even in the civil rights movement, it were young people who wasn't with all that tap dancing that was behind the scenes pushing a lot of this stuff. While those people were tap dancing at tap. Yeah, it's, we know better. But okay, I went way over. But this is so when people, because they'll say, don't talk about Akida. No, you need to start talking about Akida. You want to skip issues and let us be. We don't got to argue. We don't have to argue. We can talk and we can put the facts on the table and we can learn from each other. It ain't about no ego. I can learn from you. You can show me stuff I don't know, and I can show you some stuff you don't know. And when we put it all together, we're going to find the truth, right? But and it ain't ego competition. Don't get into that ego stuff. That's one of our big problems. Everybody want to be the man. Come on. All of us want to be the man while someone else is dominating us, really being the man. While we fronting. Or what you say that? Capping. I don't even know what that means. But while we capping. Nah, we got work to do. And one of the things we got to stop fooling each other. You don't got it, you don't got it. What I don't know, I don't know. You show me. We put it together and we get the right stuff and move our people ahead. But a lot of what I'm trying to do is get the common people to stop being afraid. Getting bullied because you don't know. because that's what's really happening. Somebody come to you, they speak Arabic, blah, 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 blah. I studied here, blah, blah, I was just shaking this, and you already get intimidated. And that's a lot of that. All right, man, I don't speak Arabic. Show me that stuff in English. Translate. Let's work it. You know? It takes time. I agree, but it's work. But you got to remember, some of us, we don't know it, but we were trained to do what we're doing. We don't realize it. We were trained to go spread propaganda for someone else. And we're just discovering it. Saudi Arabia didn't bring Negroes over to Saudi Arabia to learn Islam. They brought them to Saudi Arabia to protect their kingdom and to spread their doctrine to preserve their kingdom. And don't think that was all about, we just like black people. No. They go to Africa, and they spread their ideas to protect their kingdom. Has nothing to do with the preservation of the deen. They know who they are, but they got a mission. That's, they ain't about Islam. It's about saving the Wahhabi kingdom. It's a big difference. And they use Islam to do it, but it ain't about the deen at all. You notice they spread their doctrine around like that, but they don't spread that money around like that. Did you notice that? One of my teachers, he told me, he said, if the rich, he's in Saudi Arabia, in prison now, may Allah release him. They put him in prison. He said, if the rich alone in Saudi Arabia paid the minimum zakat, they would remove world poverty. Think about that. He said, if the rich in Saudi Arabia, al-aghniya, the rich people, they paid the minimum zakat, it would wipe out world hunger. But they don't do it. But they will print some books and give it to the poor. They will spread some and build a masjid to give the poor their doctrine, but they won't empower the poor and change their financial status. Think about that. Go to all these Negro masjids around the country that got all these graduates and see their financial condition. They spread in Wahhabism, but go look at their condition. They come back from Saudi Arabia and struggle to find a daggone job. And they left Saudi Arabia, but they carrying all that doctrine, but no wealth to match it. So is it really about empowering you or about getting you to spread their doctrine? Think about it. That's, as the young people say, that's facts. I don't got it. That ain't something you got to look for. Go look at all those black graduates. Look at all of them. They carry the doctrine, but see if there's any empowerment with it. Think about that. They all graduate. They're all graduates, and it's a lot of them now. Go look at their financial condition. And they graduated from countries that got billions of dollars that they gave to the Trump administration. They gave them billions of dollars, billions. But for you Negroes, just go spread our doctrine. I gave you a free indoctrinated education. It's real talk. That you can't deny. That's real talk. So tell me if it's not a plan. Tell me if it's not by design. Right? This is real stuff. All right, I'm done. I could go all day with this stuff. But may Allah make it easy for us. May Allah make it easy. We got work to do. And it's a painful work. And the more of us who do it, the easier it will become. The more of us who support voices of rectification, voices of truth, we can get the job done. We got to put some heat under some of our people, though. Believe me, I'm not the only one who know what I'm talking about. I'm not at all. I'm not even the best one at it, right? It is available, but we just got to put a little heat under people. I just got a text to avoid you. I know. I'm not, hey, just learn. You don't got to talk to me. I'm giving you enough information. You go research for yourself. I'm not calling to me. I'm not looking for no followers. So I'll give you the information so you can go look for yourself. All you got to do is go learn. Trust me. You don't got to listen to me. It's available. I read books. It's not just me talking. I study. I got teachers, and I'm going to share it with you because I want us to change. I want to see a change. What question? I don't see the question. I'm sorry. Y'all got me going on and on and on. That's me. I'm passionate about this, as you can tell. Because I believe if we get it right, we can change the world. If we get it right, I believe we have a lot of power. All right. I explained that. It's easy. Someone was asking a question saying they don't understand the difference between what we say and what Wahhabis say when they say that Allah has hands, since they say not like our hands. Okay. Here's an easy way to understand this. When Al-Sunna, number one, we don't translate that. This is a mistake, especially when it comes to us. So there is the Arabic word in the Quran, yad, right? Which in Arabic has around 14 different meanings. If you translate that word, there are meanings that befit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there are meanings that are not befitting of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you use the word hand to translate the Quranic word yad in Arabic, what will happen to some, and you tell them that this is a literal meaning, and it's literally, you will put in the mind that Allah has limbs, but his limbs are not like ours. Let me give you an example of that. This is a mistake. So that's why we teach the person that Allah has the attribute of yad, and yad in relation to Allah has a meaning befitting to Allah that Allah knows best, and it is not like anything of the creation. That's different from saying literal, because when you say literal, you are applying a meaning among the meanings of created things, right? And you must believe that, they say. So therefore, that's problematic, right? And that problematic thing leads to what we call tajseem, giving Allah bodily attributes, or a tashbih, likening Allah to the creation. So that's the difference. It's a big difference, right? I was talking to an imam of those people. He said, Allah has a hand, he said, and it's kufr, disbelief. He said, Allah has a hand, but his hand is not like our hands, just as the clock has a hand, but the clock's hand is not like our hands. That's the essence of kufr, or likening Allah to the creation. Why? Because the hand of the clock is like our hands, isn't it? It has a width, it has a shape, it has a form, it has a color, it has a depth, it has a location, it has a direction. It is a creation. It's a creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not like any of that. So they say it's real, but we don't know the how. There is no how for Allah. That's a big difference from saying there is a how, but we don't know it, and Al-Sunna saying there is no how for Allah. It's two different things, distinctly different. Abdul Rahman Lamar, my brother, because I agree with you. Or when you say that, I've never heard them say literally or in any books. I wish to get concrete evidence. Let me ask you a question, first of all. Right? This is a question, and I love you, so don't take it. I'm just sharing your thing because you're asking a legitimate question. Can you read Arabic? That's the first question. Because I got to know where to help you. Can you read Arabic? If you don't, you can't, and I can't use that. But can you read Arabic? No. All right, so I got to show you English books. Do you have the Noble Quran? The English translation of the Noble? Wow, man. Do you have Sahih Bukhari, the 9 volumes? I'm trying to help you. Yes. Okay. What edition do you have? Muslim Khan and Taqiyuddin Halali, Dar es Salaam? Is that the edition you have? You have the Noble Quran or the Sahih Bukhari? Hey, Isla, can you grab me the Noble Quran real quick? I want to help the brother. Yes, you have the Noble, which is the Noble Quran. That's a question, Habib. I'm going to help you because you asked me a question. I'm going to show you. You have the Noble Quran. Okay. Can you grab that for me or no? Okay. Noble Quran, the Wahhabi one. I'm going to help you real quick. It doesn't take long. Because you said you had the book. And maybe you never even noticed that's what they were saying. I'm not in the make it up business. We don't do that. That would defeat everything we're talking about. We're getting the book, inshallah. 1 second. Allah. Do you see it or no? Huh? Okay, here it comes. Do you have your Noble Quran? So, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. I'm going to give you this. You see this? It's the same, Muhammad Muslim Khan. I'll bring that noble Quran. You see it? Sahih Bukhari, right? All of their books have this in it. They put these notes in there. You'll see it in your noble Quran. So they talk about the Shahada, right? Mm-hmm. If you go to that section on the Shahada, he's going to mention about these verses. Point 3. Is this here? Is a confession with your heart that you have to say, "Oh Allah, I testify that all the best names and the most perfect qualities which you have qualified yourself in your book, the Quran, or as the Prophet ﷺ has qualified you with his statement, I confirm that all those names and qualifications are for you without changing their meaning or neglecting them completely or giving resemblance to them." Right? As Allah said, there is nothing like unto him, and he is the hearer, the seer. This holy verse confirms the quality of hearing and the quality of sight for Allah without resemblance to others. And similarly says, that which I've created with both my hands. Wal-iyadu billah. And he also said, the hand of Allah is over the hands. This confirms the hand for Allah, but there's no similarity for it, right? And then he goes on establishing on the throne and other down, right? The problem here is when it says without changing their meanings, neglecting them completely, and giving the resemblance, right? That line there is their literal interpretation. And you'll see where they mention this. If I can put it there. Where is it at? Here. Excuse me, here. In this line there, that last bottom part, I'll put it closer if I can get this thing to the camera, right? Changing their meanings or negating the words or giving resemblance. That is ta'wil, ta'til, and tashbih. And if I can show you this in Arabic, they have it in those other books, which entails, if they said there is no changing their meaning. The problem here is that you're giving me an English translation of an Arabic expression. And once you do that, that is a changing of the meaning itself. Right? I understand. I'm trying to explain it to you. Allah himself used certain expressions in the Arabic language. And I'm going to show you other books, and I'm going to put you to where you see there literally. I have to show you the books. That expression in itself is an interpretation of a meaning, which the Salaf didn't do. So here, the interpretation here is that literal translation, which is literal, because in the Arabic language, yad has more than meaning than hand. That translation is a literal interpretation. Do you understand that? Let me give you an example in English so you follow me. What is the literal meaning of Johnny kicked the bucket? If I say Joe kicked the bucket or John kicked the bucket, what's the literal meaning of that? I say John kicked the bucket. Follow me. What's the literal meaning? Anyone answer that? Kick the bucket. That's not Malik. John kicked the bucket. Malik, he died. Is that the literal meaning or is that a figurative meaning? If I say John kicked the bucket, Abdurrahman Lamar said John kicked the bucket. If I say he died, is that a figurative or a literal meaning? So y'all gotta answer that question. We got two, kicked the bucket, died, right? Which one is literal and which one is figurative? No, figurative meaning is not kick the bucket. Figurative meaning is he died. The literal meaning is he kicked the bucket, meaning figuratively, right? Meaning literally, he kicked the bucket. Kick the bucket is not figurative. Kick the bucket, when died is figurative. Kick the bucket literally means he kicked the bucket with his foot, right? But all of us, when someone says in language, when they say he kicked the bucket, we all know that means he died, though that's not the literal meaning. We already understood from that. No one's going to think he literally kicked the bucket. So when you say that speech, people understand that, right? The Arabs, in their original language, they understood figurative speech. They didn't apply literal meanings. So when you translate yet into English and say hand, and you must affirm a hand to Allah, that means you're giving that literal meaning. Do you understand? You got to understand the whole doctrine, not part of it. Because if you say Allah doesn't have a hand, a limb, or an organ, then it's not literal. It's not literal. It's not real meaning. Now I want you to follow. If y'all followed yesterday, we were reading, and the author in the book we read yesterday, the same book we was reading today, he mentioned two types of interpretation. A reader, can you help out since you're still there? Do anyone remember the two type of interpretations that were mentioned in the introduction of the book we were reading? Does anyone know? Just before we tell them, let's see if we were paying attention. He mentioned two types of interpretation. Do anyone remember what they were? I'm going to take you down, Brother Lamar. I know we're going long, but we're studying. Remember I told you, if you don't get the points later, they're going to, and Brother Lamar, you can contact me inside. I'll give you more information. You can just send me a message, and I'll help you as best as I can. All right, do y'all remember the two types of interpretation that were mentioned in the introduction? Let's see if we were following. No, in the introduction, he mentioned two types of interpretation in that book on page number 16. You ready, reader? Want to read them?
Yes. The first paragraph.
Yes.
The issue of figurative interpretation and non-specific interpretation has never represented a danger or existential threat to this ummah.
Now go back at the top, the bottom of page 15.
They failed to understand the reality of the Ash'ari doctrine regarding specific figurative interpretation, ta'wil, and non-specific interpretation, tafweed.
Right. So you have two types of interpretation, as Muti put it. Muti's getting busy, right? You have a specific figurative interpretation, which is died for kicking the bucket, right? And then you have a non-spiritual, if you said kick the bucket and you didn't say anything else without the literal meaning. But you said kick the bucket, but I don't mean with your foot. So now you're not identifying what you meant by kick the bucket. You're confirming it, but you're not identifying it specifically. Kick the bucket with your foot, right? So that giving you a way to understand the concepts. But tafweed is taking the whole meaning and referring the meaning to Allah without any further discussion. So you say yed and stop, but it's not literal. Allah is not like anything in the creation. That is an interpretation. Why are you making that interpretation? To avoid literal interpretation. But you're not assigning a meaning, so it's not a specific figurative interpretation. Do you understand that? Is that concept clear? Remember, we read something yesterday. The hardest thing is to simplify the simple. Man, is that difficult. Do you follow? Do you understand the concept or no? So that's the important. Do you understand? I need you to understand, and then it'll be clear. But if you don't understand, it's going to be difficult for you to follow. All right. And the easiest way for those people to misguide people is to hide by similar terminology, right? So by using similar terminology and you don't know definitions and what is intended by words, it's easy to pass false things off on you. No one gives you counterfeit money that doesn't look like real money. Counterfeit money resembles real money, but it's fake. And the only way you're going to identify it is when you look at the details. What is it really? Right? It's the same thing. So they're giving you false doctrine in the name of real doctrine. But the only way you're going to discover it is when you understand what the real doctrine is. You won't know it. And it'll be passed off to you because you don't know the real doctrine. So if this one says Allah has a hand and it's not like other hands, that's why you'll never hear me say that. You'll never hear me say Allah has a hand. You'll never hear me say Allah has a face. When we read it, I correct it all the time. Why? Because that in translation is going to mislead people to accepting a false belief that someone else is pushing that the author does not intend. Do you understand how this works? And we can't be intellectually lazy because it's difficult. Man, I quit. No, this is your belief. You can't quit. You got to figure it out. You got to figure it out. And it's simple. You actually believe it. Allah is not like his creation, but they mixing words And then those words start to put ideas in your mind, and then you end up liking Allah to the creation. That's what happens. And there is one key point. In Arabic, right, it's much more clear. Because in Arabic, you're dealing with the original words. Then you can see what they're saying. In English, because of translation, you're going to lose part of the reality, right? So in Arabic, you're going to hear words like al-Zahir, literally, hakikatan, bidatihi, by his essence, in reality, literally. In Arabic, you're going to hear those words. Why? Because they're trying to push something to you. But in English, it all gets jumbled up. And that's why we should have a new movement when it comes to the attributes of Allah. Even if you use a translation, you need to explain what is intended. And preferably that you leave those words in Arabic language and explain. I know it's going to take some extra paper, but you got footnotes. Put the footnotes. And that's a good work for translators, to stop literally translating, because you're feeding people to these bad beliefs by your literal translations. Even if you don't give a specific figurative interpretation, leave the meaning to Allah and put a footnote. We went long, and I'll stop now. But I mean, is this point clear? We can continue tomorrow. Don't worry. Inshallah, if I live and I'm not assassinated right and stuff. But inshallah, you get the point. It'll become clear as we keep learning. But these points, you have to understand them well, or you won't understand the subject. You follow what I mean? Yeah, you can do that with, you said they left that word in Arabic. You can do that with Allah's attributes too. The same concept. That is not an attribute of Allah, but I'm just saying, the same concept they did that, they do it when they want to do it. Leave it in Arabic when it comes to the names of Allah and explain to the people. Right? But you know the clearest example? When they try to tell you that Allah is in heaven, and the belief of Al-Sunna is that Allah exists without a place. You can't get around that one, right? You can't say Allah exists without a place and that Allah is in heaven. And they use verses in hadith literally to try to put Allah in a place. Well, Al-Sunna say Allah exists without a place. Do you see my point? You can't get around that. You can't run from that. You can't run from that. Either Allah exists without a place or he's in a place. If he's in a place, then you're saying that's literal. Al-Sunna say it's not literal and Allah exists without a place. Now, bring the evidences of why Al-Sunna say this and why the people of Tashbih and Tadsim say that. You can't escape it. Or unless you get slick like some of them, that Allah is in a non-existent place. La hawla wa la quwwata, a non-existent place. Try that for the mind. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Every major institution in the world, Al-Azhar, in Yemen, in Morocco, in Syria, all the major Islamic schools in the world, the major ones, not these new ones that came in the last 50 years, 100 years, all those schools who have 500, 1,000 years of teachers, all of them teach what I'm saying, every single one of them. Azhar University, The universities in Damascus, the universities in Yemen, in Morocco, Fez, all of those teach exactly what I'm teaching. It's in their books, and I can show you. Those ideas you're talking were taught from University of Medina and spread from Saudi Arabia in our time. And if you go to any other place that where they're teaching that stuff, that you check their chains of narration, it go back to Saudi Arabia. That's a Saudi product that started in the last 200 years. And it was taken from earlier people who deviated in creed, and they took those ideas and added stuff to them. So they didn't make it all up. Some stuff they made up. Some stuff they borrowed from people in the past who were refuted in the past. That's history. That's history. And the point is this: if you go study history and study chains of narration, it's work. These are facts. You can't argue with them. Now, once you get the facts and you just want to dispute facts, then that's another story, right? That's a whole nother other story. If it's the facts, we got the facts, they clear, and I disagree with all the historic facts. All right, well, what can I do with that? You disagree. But at least we got the facts. We're not hiding the facts. So if you go to Azhar University, that's what's being taught in the traditional curriculum of Azhar University. Now, you go to Azhar today, you got Wahhabis in Azhar, changing the curriculum, doing all kinds of stuff. Graduates that are Wahhabis, it happens. That's a political stuff. But if you ask me the essence of these classical institutions, that's what they taught. The books are available. It's not like I'm making it up. All you got to do is research and do real study with real teachers and tell the ones who graduated to be honest. They know. They went to the school. You're a graduate. You know what they teach. You know what the scholars, and sadly, even the graduate is poor sometimes these days, right? But you studied in Syria. You studied in the major schools in Syria. You studied in the major schools in Fez and Morocco. You studied there. You know better than me. You know what's in the books. You know what the scholars wrote. You studied Hadith. You know what's in the books of the major Hadith scholars. We know. It's clear. It's not like it's something that's hidden. Imam Amin don't know enough to make this stuff up. I don't know enough to make it up. I'm not that smart. I'm not deluded though, man. I'm special. I came up with something that no one else figured out. No, I learned it from teachers and from books and from living institutions and from traveling the world. I know better. I didn't make it up. It's not something that with my smart intelligence, and I want you to know how smart I am. I didn't make it up. It's all around the world, on all the books and all of the scholars. And that's why they don't let you know about scholars. They only quote them. That's why you find you got all other books of different modern people. They don't want you to know what the scholars said at all. Because they believe all the scholars were deviants and misguided with bad aqidah. That's the reality. And listen, forget me. Here's a discussion. Forget me. Let's not make it personal. I'll shut up. And all I will do is give you books. You read Arabic, you translate. I'll just be quiet. This is all I'm going to do. Here's a book, here's a scholar. What does it mean? Here's a book, here's a scholar. What does it mean? Here's a book, here's a scholar. What does it mean? That's all we got to do. I don't got to translate. We don't got to debate. I'll just show you where I got all these ideas from, and you explain it. So it don't got to be no pride. I don't know anything. I'm ignorant, right? It ain't about me. Here's where I got this stuff from. Here's the actual books. You studied. You know. Explain. That's it. That's it. The reason why most of us can't do that is because we don't have the material. We don't know. But we got the material, so I can show you. This is the belief. Here's the book. Here's the scholar. Here's when he lived. Here's his teachers. Here's who he learned from. Here's who he learned from. Were all them misguided? Were they all crazy? This is real. This is real, right? So it don't got to be a debate, because when you get into personalities and egos, then you're never going to get to the truth, because it ain't about the truth. It's about you. It ain't about me. Take me out of it. I'm an ignorant dummy. I don't know what I'm talking about. Fine. You do. So here, explain that. That's it. It's the end of the discussion. Just be honest. Because if you start fabricating, I'm going to show, because obviously if I'm showing you the book, I know you're fabricating. Because the book is right here. These are the chains of narration to that book. So I know if you're fabricating, so you can't do that. So the ultimate thing is you're going to say they were misguided. And now it's up to us to decide, are we going to believe you or your scholars from you took from those Saudi scholars, that Wahhabi movement? Or are we going to believe the rest of the Muslim world? That's what it boils down to. And that's all we got anyway. Like we ain't, and I hope we're not making up stuff as we going along. I hope we're not doing that, right? That's the bottom line. Once we do that, it's over. End of discussion. And if that's what you choose, that's what you choose. Some people choose to be devil worshippers. What can I do about that? But I need to distinguish the devil worship from proper belief in God. I need to know the difference. And then I choose the correct thing, inshallah. But if some people choose the wrong thing, what can you do? What can you do? And this is serious, because this is the root of our problem. And I'm sorry for going extended, but we got work to do. And I hope people understand. And I know there are going to be people who disagree. Oh, don't make it personal. Don't talk about me. Forget about me. I'm the worst of the worst. Talk about the issue I'm talking about. Forget me, right? And it can be either one. Some, they believe exactly what they're teaching. They don't even know it's wrong. They didn't even go that deep. And some know what they're teaching is rejected by the majority of the Muslim nation, but they believe the majority of the Muslim nation is wrong. That's reality. So if we're going to have this discussion, I'm going to say, okay, listen, who are our representatives? Who are our scholars? Because it ain't me and you. So what are we referring to? If it's about you, we got a problem right now. If the discussion, if the debate or the discussion, let's not debate, because those words to us have a negative context. So if it's me and you, that's a problem. I'm going to back out of that because I can admit I don't know anything. So but if you think you know something and you think you're a scholar, then that's a problem. That's a problem in and of itself, right? We got a problem in Houston there. We have a problem. If you think you're a scholar and you're the last end of it, that's a problem. And I'm going to back out of that one because I'm not a scholar, nor do I take that position. I'm relating from what they said. So the argument is not going to be with me. It's going to be what they convey. And you're going to do the same thing, I hope. I hope it's not just you, right? I hope it's not you. So some modern guy says, I'm the sheikh of sheikhs, and it's about what I say. You got an ego problem because you should be narrating. So we're only checking sources. So that means you're not making it up. You're going to tell me where you got it from, and then we're going to compare notes to see what is right. And you're going to help me. Maybe there's some things I didn't see, I don't understand, I didn't know, and you're going to share that with me, and I'm going to share with you, and ultimately we're going to find the truth. We're going to find, or at least we're going to know the case to decide what is the truth. We're at a stage we don't even know we don't know. That's deep. We're at a stage we don't even know that we don't know. That's bad position. So let's get to the point. At least the facts are on the table. We understand what is being said, and then we can make a proper choice. But if the facts are hidden, misrepresented, all over the place, then we're never going to know the truth. And that doesn't serve us well. It doesn't serve us well at all. Because we've been through that. How many changes we got to keep going through to get it right? We're in this group, and this group, and that group, and this group, and that group. It goes on for years and years and years. Come on, this stuff doesn't work. Don't we know that don't work no more? We didn't figure that out yet. That doesn't work. Just blind following without knowing what the heck we're doing. That doesn't work for nobody. It doesn't work for a Sunni. It doesn't work for a Wahhabi. It doesn't work for no one. We need to learn. We need to learn. We have to learn. We don't got to be scholars. We just got to know the basics. We don't even know the basics well. We got to learn the basics. We don't have to be ulama. But because of the stuff that's been put on us, we got to learn a little bit more than the basics just to get an understanding. So, inshallah, tomorrow. Tonight, we're going to have a beautiful discussion with one of our young, older brothers who has a lot of experience in these issues. He's been around a long time, right? So we're going to have our brother Tinweer. He's going to come on tonight at 8 o'clock, and we're going to have an open discussion with his experience and Islamic experience and life experience and things that can help us. And we're going to have an open dialogue. So join us tonight at 8 o'clock for our Black History Month series of classes. But we're going to fix that by learning. The only way you're going to fix confusion is by teaching. You can't fix confusion by being silent. No one has ever got out of confusion because someone don't say anything. They stay more confused. You have to teach. You have to explain. Now, I'm not saying my methods are the best. I'm a little bit rough. I know that. I'm trying to work on it, but I've been misguided. I know what it feels like, and I don't like it. So part of my forthrightness is because of my experience, right? I've seen a lot. So I don't, and I've seen it from both sides of the fence. I've seen people with correct Aqidah treat Black people like crap. And they have the knowledge, but racism prevents them from teaching us. I've seen that too. I see that too much. That really hurts. I'm like, man, you got the truth. You got the thing that can set us free, but for your racism and you wanting to dominate us, you don't tell us. You only spoon feed us while you keep all the other stuff. That hurts. That hurts. I've seen that. And I can identify that. You have the knowledge. You got the right, correct knowledge, chains of narration, everything. Why are you treating the Blacks like this? Why you didn't produce like you produce for your own? Why the Blacks got to be second-hand class citizens, even among Muslims? What kind of crap is that? You got Blacks that been learning for 20, 30 years with these people and they still don't know nothing. What are y'all doing? This is not our religion. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is not Islam. Islam is a beautiful way of life when it's given properly, when it's given and trying to free humanity from bondage, not make them in bondage. We got work to do. We really got work to do. And, I could go on and on because of my passion. I wish we can change it. And I pray to Allah that my voice can be a voice that feeds the change. I don't have the skill set to do it, but I can scream enough that someone who has the ability, they could do more. You know? Yeah, the Latino community, sister, I gotta stop. The Latino community is on the road for what happened to the Black community. It is really being pushed to y'all now. The Latino community is in trouble. You, the Latino community, better make a thorough study of the Black community so you don't repeat the exact same mistakes. Especially the Latino. There is a major push all around the world to indoctrinate the Latino community. You better watch out. And I traveled to the Spanish or speaking countries. I don't know the proper word to use for it. And those Wahhabis are all over the place, from top to bottom. And they're on the move. And they're doing what they did in the Black community and the Latino community. And they're using Latino people, indoctrinating them, teaching them, and sending them back in the Latino community to do the same thing. A repeat. Play that thing over again. So the Latino people, you better tune in. Because for you, you're next. لا حول ولا قوة. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. May Allah make it easy for us. Don't despair, learn. Don't despair, because this is just a test. If we learn and we work hard, we give da'wah, we teach, it will go away like it went away in the past. We're just facing what previous Muslims faced before us. But we just got to learn, we got to teach, we got to study, and we got to produce. And we'll change it. It'll go away. This ain't the first time this happened. This is they say if you don't learn from history, you repeat it. All we're doing is repeating history. That's all we're doing, repeating history, because we didn't learn from history properly. But just like history repeats itself, when this idea happened in the 8th century, the people and scholars of the 8th century, they responded and wiped it out. When it was in the 3rd and 4th century, the scholars and people responded and wiped it out. Now we're in the 15th century, 14th century, the end of the 13th century, and we're still fighting. And the scholars responded. I told you what happened in Chechnya. Look at it. They're responding. We're just in the West, and we're out in the wilderness, and no one's coming to help us like they should. They're trying to use us, unfortunately. And this is bad. Everyone's using us for their own benefit. This hurts. So we got people who know, but the way they're taught makes them incapable of conveying. Makes them incapable of conveying. Because they're taught in a passive way. They're taught, they're taught like the slave who don't want to upset the master because he's going to get whipped. You're going to whip him. So don't make him angry. He's going to whoop you. Now just be quiet and be a good old boy, and you'll get through it. But then there are those who say, nah, man, I'm not letting him whip me, and I'm not letting him be my master no more either. And there's that kind of person too. I'm in the latter group. Whip me, I'm not afraid of you. But you're not going to do that. And I'm going to sit down and take it. Nah, it's not going to happen. So I hope we get more of us who have that nature, and we'll change it, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we'll see you tonight at 8 o'clock. May all of you have a good Jumu'ah. And I hope I benefited you in some way, or at least opened your eyes so that you start investigating, inshallah. Barakallahu bikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.